All right, let's dive into this autumn budget. It's hot off the press, just released minutes ago. I'm sure you know budget documents can be a bit much to take in, but we're here to break it down, especially since the UK economy has been a bit of a roller coaster, wouldn't you say? Low productivity, the debt. We've got an expert here to help us make sense of it all.
It's definitely a mixed bag. The chancellor is saying it's all about fixing the foundations, aims for stability and growth in the long term. But we can't ignore the starting point. It's tricky.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that jumps out at me, right off the bat, 22 billion pounds in extra spending pressures. What's going on there? It's like a surprise bill landed on our doorstep.
It is a bit like that. Finding out your renovations are going to cost way more than you thought. Inflation's a big part of it. Everything's more expensive, even for the government. And then, well, we haven't had a spending review recently, so departments haven't had their budgets adjusted. And on top of all that, there's the unexpected costs, like the compensation for the post office scandal and the infected blood inquiry. Those are big bills that just have to be paid.
So this isn't just a one-time thing. It's a constant pressure. Makes me think cuts are coming. But I'm seeing headlines about increased spending, especially for public services. What's the deal?
You're right, they are increasing spending on things like education, the NHS, even local roads. For example, the NHS is getting a huge boost, the biggest cash injection in years. The goal is to tackle those waiting lists. They're aiming to get patients seen by a specialist within 18 weeks.
That's a game changer for anyone stuck on a waiting list. I can see the impact that would have. But now the big question, how's all this being paid for? Are taxes going up?
Okay, good news for drivers. Fuel duty is frozen. And there are no immediate increases to income tax, national insurance, or VAT. However, and this is a big however, they're freezing those tax-free thresholds until 2028. Eventually, they'll rise with inflation, but until then, higher earners are going to feel the pinch as their salaries go up.
So a bit of a stealth tax rise. What about businesses? Any changes there?
This is where things might not be so great. Employer national insurance contributions are going up, and they're actually lowering the threshold for paying them. So businesses, especially smaller ones, are going to have higher costs to deal with.
So we've got a trade-off here. Potentially better public services, but maybe some downsides for businesses and higher earners. Feels like we're walking a bit of a tightrope.
It's all about finding the right balance. It is a balancing act, and it's not all about how much money goes out, it's about how well they spend it. The budget does try to make sure they're getting value for money, tackling waste.
Getting more bang for our buck, so to speak. What are some of the efficiency measures? I love hearing about saving taxpayer money.
Well, they're creating a new office for value for money, basically a watchdog to make sure every pound is spent wisely.
Keeps everyone honest.
Exactly. And they're cracking down on COVID fraud. There's a new commissioner who will be trying to recover misspent funds. Remember those stories about companies taking advantage of pandemic schemes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Felt like everyone knew someone who was getting rich off those schemes while real businesses were struggling. Good to see some action on that.
And to really drive it home, they're setting a 2% productivity target for all government departments. It's like saying you can't keep asking for more money, you need to do more with what you have.
A strong message.
Yeah.
Makes sense, though, with those spending pressures we were talking about. But let's zoom in a bit. What about the impact on individuals, like pensioners or people on benefits? Those are groups that often get hit hard when times are tough.
It's a crucial point, and the budget does address some of those worries. The big news for pensioners is the commitment to the state pension triple lock.
Okay, remind me what that is again. It's one of those things I hear about but can never quite remember the details.
Think of it as a three-way safety net. So, the state pension will increase each year by whichever is highest. Inflation, average earnings growth, or 2.5%. This year, it's going up by 4.1% because of earnings growth. That's about an extra £470 a year for more than 12 million pensioners. Not bad, considering how expensive everything has become.
Definitely makes a difference for a lot of people. What about those on working age benefits? Any good news there?
Yes, they're getting a boost too. Benefits will be uprated in line with inflation, which was at 1.7% in September. So there's a little protection there for those on fixed incomes and benefits, which is important with all the uncertainty at the moment.
Okay, that's good to hear. Can't talk about the economy without talking about, well, all the people who've left the workforce since the pandemic, a lot of them struggling with long-term health issues. What's the budget doing about that?
It's a huge challenge, and the budget acknowledges that. There are plans to invest in programs specifically designed to help people get back into work, and they're focusing on addressing the reasons why people are inactive because of health issues.
That's a complex issue for sure.
Definitely. They're also investing in support for young people who aren't in education, employment, or training.
Right, trying to make sure no one gets left behind.
Exactly. They're also investing $240 million in trying out new programs to address inactivity and help people get back to work. Things like retraining programs and skills development.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem. It's about giving targeted support and helping people overcome barriers.
Right. It's about realizing a healthy and active workforce is essential for a thriving economy.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've looked at spending, taxes, efficiency measures, and the impact on different groups, starting to get a feel for the budget's overall approach.
Definitely. But one piece we often forget is regional growth. This whole leveling up agenda, spreading opportunity and prosperity more evenly around the UK.
Leveling up has been a big buzzword for a while now. How is this budget trying to achieve that?
It's a major focus. They're taking a multi-pronged approach, investing in infrastructure projects, empowering local leaders, and creating a better environment for business outside London and the Southeast.
Give me some concrete examples. What does leveling up look like in this budget?
Well, look at the Northern Powerhouse, for example. They're continuing to invest in projects like the Transpennine Route Upgrade, which, by the way, is a massive project to improve rail connections between cities like Manchester, Leeds, and York.
Sound impressive.
It's all about connecting people and businesses and giving a boost to those regional economies.
Big infrastructure seems to be a key theme here. What about other areas? Any exciting developments happening elsewhere?
Another focus is unlocking growth in what they call the Oxford, Milton Keynes, Cambridge corridor, which is, well, it's already a hub for innovation, especially with the Cambridge Life Sciences cluster. The goal is to connect these cities with the East-West Rail Line, which will help businesses work together, attract investment, and create those high-skilled jobs.
Trying to build a mini Silicon Valley in the UK.
That's a good way to put it. And it's not just about these big projects. The budget also confirms that investment zones and free ports across the UK will continue to get funding. These are, special economic zones with tax breaks and simpler regulations to attract businesses and create jobs in places that have been left behind.
The free ports were a bit controversial, weren't they?
There were definitely some concerns about their impact on existing businesses and the environment.
Right.
The government says they're a key part of leveling up and bringing investment to areas that need it most.
So, a bit of a gamble, but with the potential for big rewards.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. It's about creating a more even playing field, making sure everyone has a chance to benefit from the UK's economic success.
So it's a mix of big infrastructure projects, investment zones, and giving more power to local leaders, a multifaceted approach for sure. But how long will it take to actually see the results of these investments? It's not going to happen overnight, right?
You're absolutely right. These are long-term projects. They need sustained commitment and have to be managed properly. Even the Office for Budget Responsibility, they tend to be pretty cautious. They've said this budget could have a positive impact over time, but it's not going to fix things instantly.
Long game then. We've covered a lot of ground, from public services and taxes to all these plans for leveling up. If you had to sum it all up, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
This budget is trying to strike a balance between what the country needs right now and those long-term goals. It's about strengthening public services, investing in infrastructure, innovation, and skills for the future. And all while finding ways to be more efficient and making sure money isn't wasted.
A tough balancing act. And the effects are going to be different for different people, depending on their income, their location, their industry.
Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's about shaping the future of the UK economy and making sure it works for everyone. We've only just dipped our toes in today, but hopefully this deep dive gives you enough information to start forming your own opinions.
Okay, let's untangle this leveling up thing a bit more. It's a catchy phrase, but how are they actually trying to boost those regional economies?
It's about making sure the whole country benefits, not just London and the Southeast. Spreading opportunities, jobs, prosperity more evenly. The approach is multifaceted. Targeted investments, infrastructure projects, and giving local leaders more power.
So a bit of a rising tide lifts all boats strategy. Give me some specifics. What projects or regions are getting the attention?
The Northern Powerhouse is a big focus.
Okay.
They're pushing ahead with things like the Transpennine Route Upgrade. That's a huge project, revamping rail connections between cities like Manchester, Leeds, and York.
Big infrastructure projects seem to be a theme. Any other areas getting similar attention?
There's a big push to develop what they call the Oxford-Milton-Keynes-Cambridge corridor. It's already a hub for innovation, especially with the Cambridge Life Sciences cluster. They want to connect these cities with the East-West rail line, making it easier for businesses to collaborate, attract investment, and create those high-skilled jobs.
Sounds like they're trying to build a mini Silicon Valley. Ambitious.
It is. But it's not just about big infrastructure. They're also continuing to put money into things like investment zones and free ports, special economic zones across the UK, offering tax breaks, streamlined regulations, all to attract businesses and create jobs in areas that have fallen behind.
The free ports sparked some debate, didn't they?
Oh, definitely. There were concerns about their impact on existing businesses and, of course, the environmental considerations.
Right.
The government argues that these zones are essential to jumpstart growth in areas that really need it, bringing investment and creating those much-needed jobs.
So a calculated risk with potentially big rewards.
That's one way to put it. It's about leveling the playing field, making sure everyone benefits from the UK's economic success.
All right, we've talked about a lot. Increased spending on public services, taxes, these leveling up plans. But the big question is it all going to work?
The million-dollar question. No guarantees, especially with the global economy as it is. The success of this budget depends on a lot of things. How well they actually implement these investments, if businesses take advantage of the incentives, even global trends are a factor. A lot is out of our control.
So fingers crossed and hope for the best.
Hope is good, but so is being informed and taking action. This deep dive gave you a look at the key parts of the budget, how they might affect you. It's up to all of us now to stay informed, hold our leaders accountable, make sure we're building a better economic future for the UK.
Well said. Knowledge is power. Hopefully this deep dive helped you understand this complex budget a bit better, and you can join the conversation about the UK's economic future.
We've only just scratched the surface. Hopefully it sparked your curiosity to learn more and really engage with the issues that matter to you.
Great point. That wraps things up for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the UK autumn budget. We'll be back soon to explore another important topic. Until then, stay curious and stay informed.